On this edition of SciTech Now, we learn about what it takes to bring a river back to life.
We really don't have a choice. If the water wasn't flowing over the top of the dam, you'd see 1,000 jets of water coming through the dam, and that indicates that it's really not in great condition.
Discover why some people are saying personal data is more valuable than gold. Find out how technology is making sure our grandparents have their own gadgets. And PBS NewsHour anchor and SciTech Now contributor Hari Srinivasan sits down with Brian Hecht to talk about the latest on startup companies. Coming up next on SciTech Now. Hello, I'm Simon Perez, and welcome to SciTech Now, our weekly program bringing you the latest breakthroughs in science, technology, and innovation, right here in Central New York and across the country. Let's begin. Water plays an essential role in the development and survival of communities all over the world. In this excerpt from the documentary Chattahoochee Unplugged, we hear how the people of Columbus, Georgia work to restore a key stretch of the Chattahoochee River. Take a look.
Families gather in the summer sun to celebrate the nation's Independence Day. A river walk completed by Columbus Waterworks has reclaimed the riverfront. Gleaming company headquarters stand on land once occupied by textile mills. Symbols of Columbus's new economy based on insurance, banking, and financial services. Now, the aging dams themselves must go.
We really don't have a choice. If the water wasn't flowing over the top of the dam, you'd see 1,000 jets of water coming through the dam, and that indicates that it's really not in great condition. And the same applies to the City Mills dams. We're really only left with the alternative of fixing the natural river, and that's the choice that we're making.
But restoring the river to its natural state and creating a whitewater course through downtown Columbus is a complicated task. Several important structures must be built before the dams are removed.
Does the boat have GPS that will report the bottom automatically, or?
Whitewater designer Rick McLaughlin joins retired MIT engineer Ed Kinner and the local dive team. They're about to conduct an underwater survey of the riverbed to see if his preliminary designs will work.
Just kind of swim down through here just to see what we've got.
Diver Josh Blair will survey the river bottom for Rick McLaughlin.
The Chattahoochee is a very large river, and even under the low flow condition, we really can't see what's underneath the water surface.
Out on the river, below Eagle and Phoenix Dam, the dive team goes to work.
They can tell how deep something is, but they can't tell what the actual bottom composition is. That's what I do, is I go down and actually put eyes on the areas that they have an interest in.
We just want to go like straight down about 100 feet, just to get a sense of what we got here.
It's actually a pretty neat river. There's a lot of pretty awesome features in the river, which is why they want to turn it into a whitewater rapids site.
24.3.
Above, the team gathers depth information.
59.884. This agrees very closely with what is on my plan.
Back on the surface, Josh Blair gives his first report.
There is a section of small boulders, all 1 to 3 feet. And then we came up to some bigger boulders, 2 or 3 of them that were greater than 3 feet. And then we went back into the bedrock.
The team is encouraged by the survey results, but also sobered by the challenge of working in a rocky, highly irregular riverbed.
It could push us one way or the other concerning the overall construction process, whether we can have divers build something or whether we have to basically put a wall in the water and pump out one side of the wall such that we have a dry riverbed that we can construct on.
Fortunately, they found a way to divert the river at low flows through the old powerhouse, which means for much of the day, the dam itself will keep the riverbed below it almost dry.
During the construction process, this dam that you see will serve as a cofferdam.
In fact, without the dam, the task would be virtually impossible. Once, sometimes twice a day, the river increases to more than 10 times the normal flow as the turbines at Georgia Power's North Highlands Dam above the city spin up to generate electricity.
It'd be as if we're trying to remove all this rubble with 100 fire hoses trained on the construction site.
The sheer scale of what they're undertaking is beginning to hit home.
You could probably take most of all the other courses in the country and fit them into Columbus. It's that big. It's a very large whitewater project, perhaps one of the largest in the country, if not the world.
And size threatens to drive up costs.
Bring you up to date on where we are on costing. The budget of May 1st was based on detailed plans below even things.
At Uptown Columbus, the private organization that's bankrolling the massive Whitewater project, those in charge are beginning to get nervous. Their job is to ensure Rick McLaughlin's rapidly evolving design doesn't break the budget.
We need him to give us, say, this is what we want to build. We need details.
Around every corner there's a surprise. Sometimes it's regulatory, sometimes it's a design challenge, sometimes it's a financial challenge. I think it's probably a good thing that the group working on this didn't really fully understand what we were getting into.
The rapids have been so successful, USA Today named them among the top 12 man-made adventures in the world. Pretty much everyone who's online has at some point worried about identity theft. Reporter Jenna Flanagan sat down with New York Times reporter Natasha Singer, who's digging into the world of data mining. Her series of reports raise questions about what Singer calls the new global currency. It's not gold, it's data, and it's for sale.
Why are so many companies collecting data on consumers?
Well, as you said, we're in an economy where data is the new currency, and companies are collecting all kinds of information about individual consumers, our home addresses, our email addresses, whether we use Discover or MasterCard or American Express, how big our houses are, what our professions are, whether we have kids, whether we're on Facebook or Twitter, how many followers we have. They're collecting this information because partly some companies want to sell us products that are tailored to us, so to show us more appropriate advertising. And others, they're trying to develop different products for different markets. There's also kind of fraud prevention where they want to make sure if you're doing a big transaction that it's actually you.
Oh, well, okay, so then there could be a positive side to this, even though it sounds incredibly invasive and creepy.
Well, I think there are positives and then there are concerns, because certainly we want to see ads that are relevant to us. But if that involves some company knowing that we have diabetes or one of our parents has Alzheimer's, we might find that a little invasive. So I think it depends on the kinds of information that's being collected. I think there's certain categories that are sensitive that people are not so comfortable about.
So what is it that makes this information so valuable? Because I understand that some companies can actually they can profit billions by packaging this and selling people's profiles.
Yes. So there are these companies called data brokers. And consumers haven't heard of them because they sell their information to other companies. So for example, if you buy something on Amazon or you buy something at Bloomingdale's, you know the company knows what you've bought. And if you gave them your address, you know that they know where you live and they know other things about you. But these companies called data brokers, they have names like Axiom, Epsilon, Experian Marketing Services. Most consumers have never heard of them, but they have information on perhaps 98% of American adults. And they might have 1,000 details about you and 5,000 details about me and thousands of other details about your neighbor. So I think it's the magnitude of it that consumers don't know about.
So let's take a minute and creep people out, for lack of a better description, and tell us some of the categories that you found that you were just able to pull up from their website.
Right. So this is on the website of Experian Marketing Services. And it said that they had information on 2 billion consumers worldwide, and they can put them into these categories. So I'm going to start with, this is the category of economic challenges. So there's a category tight money, tough times, urban survivors, small town shallow pockets. Then there's aspirational, dare to dream or hope for tomorrow. Then there's sort of modest. Modest metro means expanding horizons, humble beginnings, striving forward. And then there's like this upper echelon category you can be in, power elite. American royalty, kids and Cabernet, couples with clouts, jet set urbanites, babies and bliss, cosmopolitan achievers. And just even the name, these inferences are being made about you that you don't know are happening. And that's why I think it's not so much about privacy. Like, I want to keep all my information to myself because many people are on Facebook, many people are on Twitter, many people have blogs. We're putting our information out there. We're not trying to keep the information to ourselves, but it's about transparency. Like, if you're making inferences about me and it's going to have a consequence, should I have the right to know what that inference is?
So why does some of these companies feel that they need to do this? Not only to collect this information, but then to categorize it in such, I'm sorry, what feels like a judgmental manner.
Right, but that they're going to say, their argument is, it's about showing you ads that are relevant to you. If you are, an American royalty, we're going to show you the ad for the Louis Vuitton luggage. And if you're like a middle-class striving minivan category, we're going to show you ads for Samsonite, And if you are, what they call like it's like about like when you're decided that you're going to stay in the rental category, like resolute renters, I'm going to show you an ad for a carry-on bag. And like their claim is that there's no harm in that. And maybe there isn't. Maybe you're fine with like seeing the Samsonite luggage. You don't want to spend the money on the Louis Vuitton luggage. It's a waste of their money to show you that ad. But the truth is that one of the things that makes us human is that we're able to be different people at different times. You're one person at church, you're another person at school, you're another person at home, you're another person when you're the Boy Scout troop leader. And being stuck in these categories for you don't know how many years or for life, it boxes you in a way, at least psychologically and sociologically.
So say I'm someone who is inclined to want to live off the grid, let's say, and I don't want this information about me out there. I don't want to collect it, and I don't want it used to market to me. Is there anything I can do to either limit my digital footprint or, in another case, remove it altogether?
So one of the issues with this is it's not just about your online life. It's about what you buy in physical stores, where you physically go on vacation. And a lot of this information is collected from public records like, property records, tax records, voter records, and those are things you can't make disappear. So on one level, even if you stop using your digital devices, if you used a credit card, they would still know what you're buying. So I think that the question is, what do we want to do about this as a society? Because we're moving toward this kind of ubiquitous surveillance and data collection. And so the question is, as a society, do we want to have limits on the data collection? Do we want to have transparency where companies should tell us what they're collecting and what they're doing with it? I don't know the answers. My job is to ask the questions. But it's really an interesting question.
Natasha, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Singer says the companies collecting this data have more information on us than most government agencies. The days when grandparents couldn't figure out the answering machine are pretty much over. According to a recent study, more than half of Americans older than 65 use a social networking site every day. Now one group is taking it further by putting gadgets in the hands of seniors. Take a look.
You might call it an age-old battle. While some crowds are queuing up to buy the latest iPad, here at the Senior Planet Exploration Center in Chelsea, others are waiting in line to learn how to use them.
There's a button on the top right here. It's a little piece of plastic. I'll come around and show you.
We're in a technology age, so I'm going forward.
Senior Planet is the nation's first technology-themed community center for people over 60. Since opening in March, hundreds of seniors have flocked here to meet the digital age head-on.
You really do want to give yourself a little more time than you have in the actual class to work on these skills.
What we're really trying to do is change the way that we age. And so we adopted this slogan called Aging with Attitude.
Tom Camber is the executive director of the New York-based nonprofit Older Adults Technology Services, or OATS. In March 2013, Camber launched Senior Planet as a public-private partnership between OATS, the federal government, and the city of New York.
What's happening today is that a large number of older adults who are more chronically dislocated from the workforce are slowly trying to get back in, and as the unemployment rates are falling, they're becoming more attractive to employers who realize they show up on time, they're literate, they can write, they have contacts in the industries, they've got specialized technical knowledge.
67-year-old Barbara Nathan has returned to the workforce as a freelance writer after more than a decade of unemployment.
I was tired of going to social service workers and asking for help. I wanted to feel that I could still do something useful.
But Nathan quickly found out that times have changed.
I applied for many jobs on my own, was turned down everywhere, and it was extremely frustrating.
Camber says that between a quarter to a half of Senior Planet students are seeking workforce-related skills. So the center offers a range of programs, from learning to use a mouse and send emails, to creating PDFs of resumes and searching and applying for jobs online. After a 5-week Senior Planet course called Job Searching in the Digital Age, Barbara Nathan secured work on the website Elance.
I go through, let's say, about 5 to 10 pages worth of jobs and see what has been posted that might be of interest to me. I have to submit a bid on what I would like to be paid for the job within the budget that's offered.
Still, the biggest obstacle for seniors on the job isn't technical prowess. It's the prevalent perception of older adults in the workplace.
When you put your college graduation date on your resume, and people look and realize you graduated in 1955, it really changes the way people perceive you. The perceptions that we have are, as people get older, that they're not willing to learn, they don't know how to use technology, they're forgetful.
Camber says one way to battle perceptions and ageism in the workplace is to increase confidence. Here at Senior Planet, community building, both in person and online, is one part of boosting confidence and making technology fun. Some seniors even come back to volunteer, sharing their knowledge and contributing to that community.
It's like learning a dance move. I'm an ex-dancer, so it's like learning a new step. And then all of a sudden it clicks. Ah, I got it.
We can ask people, what do you want to be doing now? What are we capable of? And so the community aspects of it have led to a book club. There's a photography group that's doing classes and going out and taking photographs and sharing them now online. There's a video gaming group that's coming together. People are starting micro-entrepreneurship programs online and selling things on Etsy. So this notion of what we're able to do together as older adults, it's not about computers. It's about aging. It's about how we age better.
Oh, I did it. Wasn't left button yet, but hold on to it.
It's almost like being back in grade school again, but it's a wonderful feeling getting this kind of positive reinforcement, being told, how much the client liked my work. And it tells me, yes, I can do this and keep doing this. There will be lulls, when you don't get hired, and plateaus, and you have to keep going. And then when you might least expect it, things start happening again.
By next year, experts predict there will be more than 26 million seniors using the internet in the United States. Startup companies are the catalyst for innovation in all kinds of technology fields. To find out what's next, we turn to PBS NewsHour weekend anchor and SciTech Now contributor, Hari Srinivasan.
Up next, we put a spotlight on some of the hottest tech startups across the country. Joining us is Brian Hecht, a serial entrepreneur for nearly 20 years, a veteran of multiple startups and advisor to many digital companies, including our own digital team. So you're an expert in this field. What do you think some of the more interesting, buzzworthy startups are right now?
Well, here's one that I've been really excited about. It's called SecondMD. It's based out of Houston. They give companies the ability to give a really unique benefit to their employees. All companies, or most companies, provide healthcare benefits, but this is really special. They give the ability to get second opinions for important medical decisions that they have, completely online, through mobile, through video, talking to top doctors in the entire country.
And so who pays for this? This is the consumer would pay for it? The hospitals pay for it?
The company pays for it. It's completely free to the consumer, to the employee. And here's an example of how it might work. So let's say I have back pain, and I go to my doctor and my specialist, and he says, you have a slipped disc. You're probably going to need back surgery. And that sounds scary to me. I don't want to do that, and I want to get a second opinion. But for me, to find another specialist, to figure out how to pay for it with the insurance, it's very complicated. If my company offers this program, I can go right onto 2nd.MD through an app or online, and they will pair me up with a choice of different specialists. I can set up an appointment with them. It's a 20-minute appointment, and they actually transfer all of my medical records seamlessly behind the scenes. So I don't have to coordinate my MRIs. The doctor sees everything that I've seen. And there can be a verbal consultation or even visual. They can ask me to stand and show me my posture or something like that. So it's really a full-service medical consultation.
Okay, and that's a company out of Houston, Texas. What else?
Another really interesting company, it's based in Brooklyn, New York, is called Makers Row. And what they do, if you think about it, there are so many more startups now that are involved in making not just technology, but actual real things, clothing, furniture. But if you're an entrepreneur that's just starting out with these things, it's really hard to know how the mechanics of this works. How do I make a design? How do I find a manufacturer, a factory? So this is a company that gives a software platform that lets entrepreneurs and other companies meet up with factories and artisans that are local to where they are, so they can actually see and feel and visit the factory and get that kind of guidance that they need to get started.
So this is something that can certainly boost the Made in the USA movement. A lot of these sort of older world factories aren't really web savvy. They're not thinking about marketplaces and how do I catch up with a small entrepreneur on Etsy.
That's exactly right. So I spoke to one factory owner in Brooklyn, which is right around the corner from Makers Row's offices, and she's been making very fancy bow ties for about 20 years. And in the recession of 2007-8, her business really dropped off. And then a couple of years ago, she met Makers Row, and she began getting brand new business from the kind of clients she would have never met before. And her business has really picked up.
Okay, what about on the opposite coast?
In LA, one thing I'm really excited about is called CauseCast. What CauseCast does is it allows companies who are engaged in charitable activities. For example, we know some companies will sponsor a cancer bike ride or something like that, or a giving initiative. It lets them organize all of that charitable activity, matching, donations, philanthropic activity, volunteerism, all on one online platform. So if you think about it, the old way of doing it is if a company was having a charitable campaign, they'd go around and pass the hat for dollars, or they'd have a paper where people sponsor a bike ride. Right. This is now all online. And what's another interesting thing about that is it allows employees to encourage other employees through social media. So, you know, the best way to get someone to give to a cause is friend raising, when your friend asks you rather than just getting a letter in the mail. So this allows individual employees to encourage their friends to get on board with their causes.
And sometimes just that disincentive of who keeps track of the papers and are we really going to get actual dollar bills and coins is enough for a company to say, you know what, I really can't start to do that yet. We have to just focus on the business, right?
That's right. And the fact that it's so organized really motivates employees also. There's one example of a client, which is a major department store chain with dozens of locations across the country, and they do a fundraising thing every year, and they decided to use CauseCast. So they decided to set up regions where each region competed against the others. And because there was metrics and analytics and they could encourage each other, once they started using CauseCast, they saw a 50% increase in donations and activities from the prior year.
Now, you've advised a lot of startups. You don't have an interest in any of these,
None
right?
of those, yeah.
Okay, and so how do you get a startup going? It seems like a maybe fundamental question, but if you're an entrepreneur saying, how do I begin?
Well, one of the great things, I've been doing this for a long time, and even 5 or 10 years ago when I would do a startup, I had to raise a lot of money, and just to get something going, to have the servers and the custom technology would cost me sometimes $30,000, $50,000 a month just to run something. Now, there's so much free software or inexpensive software. You know, you don't need servers. You can put everything in the cloud. I see plenty of companies that start with $500 nowadays. So I think you still need to get the basics right. You need to incorporate properly. You need to have all your legal, your terms of service, and things like that. But the financial barrier to entry is so low that anyone with a good idea can probably give it a shot.
And so what gives them, after they have that good idea, what gives them the competitive edge?
I think there's two things. Number one is product. There has to be something out there that they're giving the consumer that not everybody else is. There are so many thousands and thousands of startups. It really pays to understand the competitive landscape, to say, am I just copying what someone else is doing, or is there really something unique here? And the second part that a lot of people forget about is acquiring customers. and marketing. I think a lot of people think, oh, I have this great new invention or an app, and if I just put it on the App Store, everyone will find it, and I'll be rich. Exactly. Right. It doesn't work like that. And in fact, acquiring customers is becoming more and more competitive because there's so many companies that are looking after so many customers. So it's becoming more and more sophisticated. And I think what companies are finding is that consumers are gravitating towards quality. We've all seen those banner ads at the top of web pages that say, 5 crazy secrets to lose, fat instantly. Right. Those really don't work for startups so much anymore. What really works is having the integrity and the value and the respect for the consumers. So you do things like content marketing, where you have a blog that's full of interesting, useful information that happens to coincide with your company's mission, but isn't a flat-out hard sell for your company. That's what people are responding to. So having a differentiated product, something that not everybody else is doing, and having a really, virtuous way to acquire customers with that value proposition, not with tricks.
All right, Brian Hecht, thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition of SciTech Now. For more information on science, technology, and innovation, visit our website at wcny.org/SciTechNow. And you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Next week on SciTech Now, we see firsthand how a Cleveland company is taking what's bad for the environment and turning it into something good. Discover how filmmakers use robots to help us understand nature. Hari Srinivasan speaks with a NASA scientist who's figuring out how we can use trash to help us get to Mars. And we'll head to a museum that's taking what students learn on Earth and inspiring them to shoot for the stars. I'm Simon Perez. We'll see you next week on SciTech Now.